let's see, I think he was my 9th grade social studies teacher. Actually nicknamed me Boner. So for reasons we'll leave on under the table here. What was the other half of that question? Anthony DiBernardo, owner at Swing Swine BBQ. So we were in the Kickin' Chicken office, and I had a list of names, and I was going through them all, and Bobby Perry, one of the partners from Kickin' Chicken, I was in the office with Chip, and I was running down my list of names, and none of them said Swig Swine. And then Bobby Perry stuck his head around the corner, and he was like, Swig Swine. Boom, done, stuck. I was born in Woodbury, New Jersey, May 4th, 1972. I guess the overall shaping of food for me came as a child, growing up Italian with the family background from South Philadelphia. I would say the biggest impression left on me food-wise were the gatherings in my grandmother's kitchen basement in South Philadelphia when I was young. My mother's parents died young. So when she married my father young, she learned how to cook from my father's mother, who primarily just cooked Italian. She immigrated from Italy in 1911. My grandfather immigrated in 1904. So the Italian roots are strong there. So my grandmother teaching my mother her ways. Basically, I grew up eating from my grandmother every night, essentially. My mother would go back to her Irish roots every now and then. And, we did a lot of pork and cabbage. Liver and onions was always, nobody else in the house liked it, but my mom cooked it for me for my birthday. That was one of my favorite dishes. No, it's funny because I never really made my connections with barbecue until after I got into it. I never really had the money to travel. So most of my research for Swing Swine was internet-based. But once we opened and I was able to make connections and start traveling and whatnot, Rodney has been a big impact on me. I've been to New York with him twice to help him cook at Big Apple Barbecue Festival. And that was actually the first time that him and I had ever conversed, really, was the first year I went up there with him. And, we get along because I think we're humble, and, we are who we are. And if you like us, fine. If you don't, see you later. Aaron from Home Team, super nice guy. We have similar backgrounds with Blossoms and coming up there. Him and his team have just done an incredible job. So, I look up to them. Michael Bessinger down the road, great guy, really is. Good family man, involved in the schools, comes in here for lunch all the time. We talk a lot, always text him back and forth. His family heritage is, ridiculous. How many years? 60? Some of them 80, I think. I think it's 80. I think they're coming up on the 80th anniversary from, in the upstate back to Charleston. So stuff like that. Those guys have been a big influence on me. I can see where people would think there would be some challenges because I'm not, from a bloodline of pitmasters and this and that. But I think essentially what it boils down to is love and passion. And if you have, the love, the passion, the drive, I believe you can do anything. Looking back on it now, my product 7 or 8 years ago didn't hold a candle to what it does now. Was it bad? I don't know, because I never had anything to go off of. I've never had good barbecue to go off of up until now. But it was an experience. But the person in me is never satisfied. I have very low self-esteem. I'm never satisfied. I'm always changing procedures and process and times and temperatures. And, we're constantly searching. So that drive in me has produced the material, the product that you see now from when I started 7 or 8 years ago. If you were to ask Hannah Raskin from the Post and Courier, brisket is my Waterloo, is what she was quoted as saying. So brisket has always been my nemesis since that review 5 years ago. And if you ever see a picture of brisket on our Instagram, it's always #practicing. I love brisket. I love to cook it. It's a challenge. Every piece of meat's different. So everything, there's nothing robotic about brisket. Every cut is different. It takes time and just attention. But I would say that the pork belly, has become my secret love. It's just so natural. a little salt and pepper, and you can do so many things with it. You can cure it in pastrami, you can cure it in the bacon, just, you name it. That's my love. So the dessert aspect of Swig Swine came from my love of being a fat kid. I have an incredible sweet tooth. I always have, and I've always been, the chemistry and the science involved in baking has always been one of those things through my culinary career that has attracted me. The exactness, the specifics, and it's just a whole nother world from frying an egg or smoking a pork butt. It's a whole nother level of attention, and that's always attracted me. And the southern to the banana pudding. So growing up, we used to do icebox cake, which was a very similar version of banana pudding. So it's there's a lot of things that you take and whatnot, but it's all the same. It's all about love. It's all about goodness. It's all about bringing people together to enjoy food, and it's just sweets. How can you beat them? So my military experience was all about cooking. I actually cooked on submarines. When I was in high school, I worked in kitchens. I started at the age of 12. Actually, I worked for Ron Jaworski, the old quarterback from the Eagles. He had a country club not too far from my house, and I started his banquet kitchen when I was 12. And I started scrubbing pots and peeling carrots. Did that for 2 years. When I was 14, I worked my way up to the hotline of the Players Club downstairs, a little place called Mulligan's. So I'd work the hotline there, 14, 15, 16. Then I transitioned to another neighborhood restaurant, and at that time it was the beginning, getting ready to go into my senior year of high school. I knew that I wasn't ready for more education because I wasn't a very good student, so I opted for military service. So I actually joined the Navy the summer of my junior year, and so even before I started my senior year, I was enlisted. So I finished out my senior year of high school, and then about 2 weeks after graduation, I left for the military. And I opted for cooking, and when it came time to volunteer for sub duty, I volunteered for sub duty, and I cooked on mass attack boats. So that's what brought me here to Charleston. So I had a crew of 130. My longest time submerged was 4 months and 16 days. Cooking at the end of that was very tough. You had to be very creative with powdered milk and frozen beef. It wasn't a walk in the park, but we made it happen. And really, the meals on the submarine were the only thing worth looking forward to. It was just a monotonous schedule, and I don't want to say there was a lot of pressure on us, but once you realize that all these guys are counting on you to brighten their day, then then you really learn how to take your job seriously and try to do the best you can. So when I got out of the military in 1994, I was one of the original crew at Blossoms downtown on East Bay Street. I worked Blossoms from 94 to 96. Went to Pawleys Island for 96 to 98. Did the Island Cafe and Deli and the old community house, Northern Italian restaurant up there. Then I took over the old hotel at Kiowa in 98, the Kiowa Island Inn. Ran that restaurant, which was called Jasmine Porch at the time, and then we transitioned into the Atlantic Room. That was 98 to 2002. Then I went on board with Mustard Seed Company. I was on board with them until 2009 when I left to open up Rita's on Folly Beach for the Kickin' Chicken Boys. And they brought me in as an operating partner there. And when the Halls Group came and bought that out in 2013, I knew that I needed to, that was my push. That was a push that I needed. I was comfortable with a paycheck, and it wasn't all about risk, especially with a family. So when that came, that was my do or die, and I did. Back at Kiowa, every Monday night, we would do whole hog and oysters for all the guests at Mingo Point. So that really ignited my fire, no pun intended, on the whole hog cooking. And I stuck with it after that. And my time at Rita's, I had a little bit of flexibility with the partners there, and they allowed me to branch out and do some barbecue catering on the side. And that kind of built my passion even stronger and helped me build a little following for Swing Swine. Are we successful? Yeah, I would like to think so. We employ a lot of people, which is huge for us. I make a living, and I provide for my family, which to me is the ultimate success. I'm doing what I love, what I set out to do from an early age, so that's a whole nother success. Of course, I would hope, my daughter Mia is 13, so, her and I are connecting on a whole nother level. I would hope that one of them would like to join in the family business, but I don't see it happening. Honestly, I want to say it brought us together, but currently going through one of those seasons now where I think it's pushing us apart. I don't know what's going on in our relationship right now. It's weird. He's 17. He's a drummer. I get it. He's got his own passions, and that's okay. I didn't per se start this for them to take over. I started this to be a provider for them, and as long as I can do that, I'm content. Obviously, this is a career that I set out early on, so it makes me happy to come to work. It's to me, it's never is a day at work. There's always a new challenge, which keeps me energized and keeps me moving. But the happiness part is just natural for me to serve people. And I look back, and I'm not very, I grew up Catholic, and I went through all the Catholicism and the CCD, and I know religion and I know faith, but serving, and that's I think that's the core of this business, and I think that's where really what gets overlooked these days is the servant aspect. I mean, you are here to serve. You are here to make people happy with your food, with your service, with the atmosphere of your restaurant, with your cocktails. Everything's a piece, but it all ties back to service, and you are a servant. And I think that's what makes me the happiest, is when I come in and I'm able to serve somebody and I see a smile on their face immediately, the first bite they take or after the handshake or whatever. That to me makes my whole day worthwhile, because that's what I'm put on this earth to do. I think my biggest accomplishment, I think, with Swing Swine to this day has been consistency. And that's kind of what we're even more focusing on now. We grew quickly. We did. I mean, we grew 4 operations in 5 years. And that completely blew me away, personally. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. 5 years ago, if you would have told me that, we would have gone for a drug test together, because not happening. But now that it's here, I mean, to me, that's the biggest challenge. And when we achieve it, it's the biggest success. To physically not be in any one location at the same time, but achieve consistency in the product and the service and the attitudes. It's difficult, to be everywhere at every time. And that's kind of my inner struggle right now, is being somebody that came up in the trenches and has always been in the trenches. Being not so much in the trenches anymore is a difficult transition for me. Working on the business instead of in the business. And, but I'm fortunate because I can come in and get in the trenches anytime I want, which I'm doing today. I did yesterday. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to be back in the trenches and rub shoulders with everybody. And that's, to me, that's where I see everything. I can walk through a dining room when I come to greet the customers on my way home, and I can see little things here and there, but I can truly get a picture of the operation when I'm in the trenches, when I'm behind the block. I can see everything. And that's kind of where we're at now as a company. We're spread so thin, and we're just trying to make more of an impact with our dollars and our time. But Camp Happy Days, Camp Hope for the Charleston Police Department. My friends Kelly and Kevin Carroll do a little fundraiser at their house every year for a couple kids from the neighborhood that are suffering with brain cancer, so we contribute to that. Hogs for the Cause down in New Orleans, which is pediatric brain cancer. The new program that we just signed on board with, where we're paying off school lunch debt across the community. What else? Ronald McDonald House. We showed up New Year's Eve, and we put out a big spread for Ronald McDonald House on New Year's Eve. That was huge. Those are the big ones. And local schools like Charleston County School of the Arts. I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars over the years we've contributed to help buy new instruments, refurbish old ones, so kids, have the opportunity to learn. Little things like that. My legacy, if I could have it my way, I want my kids to know that I did this for them, and that all the work I've put in, everything I've done over the course of time that they've been around has been for them and to help them get a better start on life. I would want people to remember me for what we do to give back, to know that we made an impact on our community while we were here. And it's funny because I'm getting to that age now where a lot of my friends are passing on and a lot of relatives are passing on, and you often sit back and wonder, you know, who's going to be there? Is there going to be a line to get in? You know, I hope there is. I hope I've impacted that many people. But you never know. The biggest life lesson, if I could give it to anybody, would be persistence. Just to, if you have a dream, if you have a goal, just to keep hammering away, hammering away, hammering away. I mean, you're going to get discouraged. I got discouraged a lot over my career. I guarantee you I suffer with depression, but I just never go to the doctor. I need to slip into that dark space every now and then. But, you know, the drive that I have to keep going after my goal, even though I have achieved it and achieved it 4 times over, it's still, you know, persistence and being successful and being consistent and making people happy. Just, you know, that's the common goal. So it's just be persistent and just keep after it. My name's Anthony. I love barbecue, and I would love for you to come see us at any of our Swing Swine, Somerville, Mount Pleasant, downtown, or West Ashland.